So I'm here with Donald and Philip Jones, the developers of the Time Machine Bronzeville, a desktop application that gives users an immersive journey through the rich history of the South Side Chicago community, Bronzeville. How are you all doing today?
Doing
Doing
well.
great.
Thank you for joining me. What made you guys want to make this app about Bronzeville specifically?
Phil?
Time Machine Bronzeville comes out of our our life experience, first of all, and our appreciation of what went before us when we were coming up on the south side of Chicago. We had the privilege of hearing our parents, grandparents, a great grandparent, their friends talk about their experiences in Chicago on the South Side and prior to that, where they came from uh, as they were migrating uh, to Chicago during the Great Migration. So we really had a sense and an appreciation of the strength and the beauty and the significance of what these people who went before us did and went through. And so that has been a part of our consciousness since the earliest days. And we are storytellers, Don and I, and have worked in various media over decades, telling these stories about the South Side and the inhabitants and what was going on there. And so, as digital capabilities improved and expanded, we could see that this was another forum for us to investigate this significant history, and this history that has been, to a great degree, underreported, ignored, mislaid, forgotten. So we saw it as incumbent upon us and an opportunity for us to help to convey and preserve and pass on this significant part of American history.
Yeah, Ryan, I agree with Phil. And I don't, I think it's important for us to really foreground the importance of the stories that we heard from our parents um, as they grew up in Bronzeville during this time. And we feel like we're just continuing in the tradition of passing down the stories from one generation to the next. And now that technology affords us the opportunity to share stories in a way that resonate with young people, resonate with those who need to know about these stories and the importance of these stories. Um, it was just the right thing for us to do at this time. As Phil said, at heart we're storytellers, and we publish books, we've written books. Often, those stories that we tell are those stories that, as he said, so often go untold and unappreciated. So this was just an extension of that.
Wow, it's incredible, and I downloaded it via stream, and I was really impressed. One of the things that really stood out to me was how much attention to detail you did for the voice characters, to capture the particular vernacular and just their. Can
Right,
you talk a little bit about that?
right.
We
Um,
worked with we
Go ahead,
worked
Phil.
with some very talented voice actors, and they were able to take our basic direction and basic script and improvise, elaborate, invent on that. And we are deeply appreciative of the work that uh, these voice actors and sound designer did in really bringing that life to the project, that distinctive voice, so to speak, uh, that that evokes that milieu of the South Side.
Yeah, Ryan, the fact is that the stories that we tell in Time Machine Bronzeville are to a certain extent universal among our community.
Right.
And so as people as those talented folks collaborated with us, they could bring their own experiences of the barber shop and the beauty shop and and stories they heard at Mother's Knee to it as well. And so it was really a collaboration, um, and a real joyful experience to work with these people. You know, some are contemporaries, some younger, some older, but they all got it, and they all understood the importance of sharing these kind of stories.
Most definitely. And these stories are so important. There's other neighborhoods that you guys could do. Like, are you planning on doing more video games, like maybe covering other neighborhoods? Because this could be a series that could go on infinitely.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ryan. It's our ambition. Uh, well, let me say it like this. One of our mantras here at our company is everyone has a story,
Right.
and it has expanded to just as everyone has a story, so does every place. And so, um, of course, Black Wall Street in Tulsa,
Right.
or um, Sweet Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, or Beale Street in Memphis, or Paradise Valley in Detroit. I mean, all these places um, share the benefit of of the Great Migration, how the Great Migration really transformed not only those particular communities, but the whole nation at large. I mean, socially, culturally, musically. I mean, every way. Um, it's really the great underreported story of the 20th century. How Black folks moving from field to factory changed the country. And so by us telling these kind of stories in this unique way that reaches out to younger people, um, we feel like we're making a worthy effort.
You most definitely are. And Bronzeville, has such great history. It is known for the soul food restaurants, the barbecue joints, and also the poet Gwendolyn Brooks is from Bronzeville. Is that correct?
Yes, she is. She was a friend of our mother's.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Do you have any stories that you could share about her?
Well, I don't know about her in particular, and maybe Phil can pick up on this, but our parents, we were very fortunate in that our parents were thoughtful, artistic people in their own right, and were part of the initial cadre of artists and musicians who helped form the South Side Community Arts Center in Chicago.
Wow.
And so people like Charles White and Elizabeth Catlett, and all these folks were part of their running buddies. And later on, after our parents got married, I mean, these are folks who would come over for Sunday dinner. And so, you know, it's all part of this continuum of passing down the stories.
One anecdote that our mother would always get a chuckle out of relating was early on, Margaret Burroughs, the founder of the DuSable Museum, used to carry around the entire collection at that time in a shoulder bag. And mom would just break up talking about Margaret carrying around the whole museum on her shoulder, right? Stuffed in a closet in her apartment. That was the whole DuSable Museum. Right?
It's really incredible. I was looking up the Southside Community Arts Center. It was actually designated a national treasure by the National Trust for Historic Preservation in 2017. Are there any other area like you feel in Bronzeville that should maybe like have like that same designation?
I'm sure there are many, and the people who are involved in that kind of work, like Paula Robinson and many others, they really know that. But at the same time, there are innumerable locations that aren't there anymore. And
Right.
and that too was a foundational motivation for us to pursue this particular kind of work. The southwest corner of 64th Street and Cottage Grove, for instance. Last time I looked, it was a vacant lot and had been for decades. That was the site of the Pershing Hotel. That was one of the main focus points for music on the South Side or nationally. The venues in the Pershing Hotel and the people who came through there and stayed there and the permanent residents and the kind of stories that come out of that place are central to the history of Bronzeville. But for the past 20, 30 years, it's been a vacant lot. And so people who grew up around there may probably have no idea of what went on that corner a while ago. And so to recreate, revisit this vanished cityscape is is critical to what we are trying to accomplish.
So historically, media outlets before it was actually called Bronzeville, they would refer to it as the Black Belt, the Black Ghetto, or Darky Town. What do you feel like about like the poor representation on the part of the media during that period?
Typical.
Yeah.
It wasn't a
I mean,
concern, you know.
Don, you feel the same way?
But at the same time, Ryan, at the same time, there was a Chicago Defender,
Right.
the journal of record for African America for decades. And there were other African American press organizations, uh, Pittsburgh Courier, Amsterdam News, on and on, Detroit Free Press. All over the country, there were African American news organizations that were documenting the history and archiving it. And so today, we search those archives and we can get a better, more detailed and nuanced understanding of what was going on in Chicago and nationally and internationally from archives of the African American press.
yeah,
Invaluable.
yeah, right. I think it's important, really important to note the 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 care we took to incorporate actual archival documents in Time Machine Bronzeville. And the importance that we felt of, in a sense, telling our own story, and and the importance of telling our own story. So often over the years, other folks have told our story. And so this is a way for us to tell our story. And most often it's told incorrectly when other folks tell it. So by us using actual archival documents and correspondence and images from the period uh, in this kind of interactive, immersive uh, treatment is most important to us, and just goes right along with our core belief that we must tell our own stories, and so that's what we're doing.
Right. And storytelling is pretty much like, strong root in our community. You know,
Yes.
we've been doing that since the beginning. Do you feel um what can be done so more Black Americans are able to tell their story? What is the solution for that? Because there's a lot of people who, like, it seems like probably, like, have great stories, but they're not necessarily getting to the forefront.
That's,
Well, go ahead, Phil.
that's a personal commitment for each person to pursue that challenge, to organize and express and project uh, their story. There are, fortunately, today many venues to do that. A lot more than what was available some years ago. Uh, Don and I assist have assisted a number of people in doing that very thing. That's really it requires personal commitment.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And Ryan, that was really the impetus for us to found Alchemy Media Publishing, which is our publishing company, and and the work we do, as Phil said, we've helped at this point, dozens of people tell their stories, and so wherever one may happen to be on their storytelling journey, um, we can help. But and so Time Machine Bronzeville was really just an extension of the work we've done over the past decade or so in helping people tell their stories.
Why do you feel that the number of Black video game developers is small?
Well,
What was the question?
Why do you feel like the number of Black video game developers, is small? I feel because, like, you guys are, like, in a space where, like, Black people aren't known for, like, necessarily putting out large quantities of work. Like, there are a small, strong, like, people in that area, but it's not like a big population, like, for other areas, for instance.
well, I think, and I'll let Phil pick up on that, but I think that um, there certainly are some Black game developers out there. Um, I don't know of any, or there's a limited number who take the approach that we do in specifically trying to um, produce uh, uh, immersive environments that mean something more than just guns and shooting and like that. I mean, we're really treading new ground here. Phil, what do you say about that?
Yes, entirely, and that's certainly important to the design of Time Machine Bronzeville. It it is intentionally not replicating the familiar game model. It's something different. That is, it's about telling stories rather than accumulating points or blowing up zombies. It's it's about an experience and and creating a relationship between the visitor in this environment and the characters and the situations of that time and place. And Ryan, I think that one of the reasons why there are apparently so few African American and other persons of color in the game development industry, it's really twofold. And one is not being largely welcomed, perhaps. And the other is people not recognizing that there is, in fact, an opportunity and there is, in fact, room in this space to be creative and to be impactful. I did a lecture at Yale last year to a group of grad students and faculty, and talking about a couple of decades of my work. And at the end of it, one of the grad students approached the instructor host and said to him that this is a young African American woman, and she said that she had no idea that Black people were a part of a media art world for all these all these decades. She had no idea. And hearing me talk, seeing the work that had done, gave her a whole new sense of possibility and her grounding in this area. Prior to that, she had no concept that Black people were working in media art and game development for years and years already. So that I think too is a big part of the issue.
Most definitely. I you mentioned like not being welcome. Like, was there ever like, when you were starting putting out this game that there were moments where you weren't welcomed by people?
I don't recognize that particularly, uh, and largely because we have charted a course that isn't asking to be, for any uh, anybody to give us something, you know, and that comes from where we come from. We we have decided what we're going to do. That's the point. What we're going to do, right? And others can agree and come along and catch up or not, but we do what we see is important to do, and we will figure out by hook or crook how to get that done.
And I think really the response has been, it's certainly been gratifying. I mean, people are drawn to and attracted by and appreciative of the effort and the idea of using game technology for something other than car wrecks and blowing people up. Um, and so we've specifically designed Time Machine Bronzeville and have ambitions for future um, locations for this kind of treatment, with the idea of incorporating a platform on which uh, in which young people are familiar. And so if we can get them in this in there, I think we- we'll we will have accomplished what we set out to do.
Most definitely. I wish you guys like the best of luck on that journey. What's next for you?
Well, we're currently working on a couple of things. Um, one is an expanded version of Time Machine Bronzeville that and I'll just leave that at that. And then we're also in talks with some other locations because, as we said, this is everybody has a story, so is every place, and so we've had people reach out to us from other uh, who have interest in developing this kind of treatment and see the importance of developing this kind of treatment for different communities. And so we're anxiously um, anticipating, moving on to the next place.
Most definitely. Donald and Philip Jones, thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate you. I really enjoyed the game, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much, Ryan.
You guys have a great one.